Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, I got this thing rolling on over there. Sorry about that. Hey, welcome to Hot Off the Press. I appreciate you joining us today. Really excited to have the guest on today. I met this guy actually just a few months ago, and I've talked about this before over the last several weeks. I joined this great group called Rank Masters, and I happened to actually go to an event at the end of February, I think it was actually, and I had a chance to meet this guy, and I thought this guy is fascinating. He's a wonderful, just a great guy, and I got to get this guy on the show. So I am going to bring on. Well, I'll just intro him, man. We'll just get right to it. I think he's incredibly interesting. Welcome to the show, my man, Spencer Lund-Hart.
What's up,
Welcome.
Randy?
Welcome, brother. Welcome. Good to see you. And you're wearing is that your Rank Master shirt?
Rank
You
Masters,
know, I
man.
have not gotten any of that yet. I don't know. I don't even know where I get my hands on it. I would order one if I could.
I don't send that stuff out.
I know. Like, where do I get this stuff? Anyway, man, I'm pretty excited. I got to pull up your website here. Hold tight. Usually, I have all of this stuff loaded up and ready to roll. So, but here's your site. And your business, Spray Foam Genius Marketing. And here's the killer thing that I think is so, I'm going to drop this into the chat as well. Here's the thing that I think is so like incredible about what you do and how you're doing it is, I mean, you've taken a niche. I don't even know that I've even heard of this niche before I met
Yeah.
you and understood like, wow, yes, you can like niche down on anything and everything.
You
Um,
know, they say the riches is in the niches, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I've got something kind of as similar as I've got it actually written on my whiteboard that's right in front of me. It's the boring shit that makes you rich.
Isn't that true?
And I think, yeah. Um, Before we get into your biz here, give me some background. What is the Spencer story here? Because I don't know that when we met in Florida there in February, I don't know actually that I got your background, prior to getting into digital marketing and what it is that you're doing. I'd love to
Uh,
hear it.
I'll try to give you the quick side of it. So, I went to school for culinary arts and hotel restaurant management. I worked in
Get
that
out
business.
of here. Seriously.
Yeah, I worked in
Wow.
that business for about 15 years and found out that I really hated the long nights and working on the weekends, working when everybody else is having fun.
Yeah.
And I remember it really affected friendships. And so I ended up leaving that business. I tried my hands 7 months in corrections. I worked at a prison. Found out that wasn't my personality. I thought, hey, if I could just do the time, my pension would be amazing. And I was like, this is,
Literally doing the time.
yeah, I mean, you're doing the time just like the inmates, right? And I then tried my hands at door to door sales. And that's when I found out that I had a gift for selling. I was selling frozen meat door to door, pretending that we had like an actual route. But we just pop into neighborhoods and start knocking doors and start name dropping. And that's where I kind of became really good at sales and learning about, we'll just say the ways of manipulation, with,
Yeah.
with selling. Um, right around that time, I'd been doing it for a couple years. I found out that I was going to be a father to twin girls, and I knew that
Wow.
selling door to door was not going to be a career for a family.
Can I ask you a question? You
Yeah,
did that for a couple of years, door
yeah,
to door?
yeah. Because I was making good money doing it.
Well, I can believe that because years ago I had a guest on our podcast, and this guy was doing God, what the hell was it that they were selling? Either carpet cleaning or
Yeah,
painting or something like that. But and similar to you, just like popping into a neighborhood and then just making it happen and going selling stuff. And the guy like blew up. He was. he did it first just like kind of as a job through the summer in college, and then he like realized I was just making really good money doing this.
Yeah. And that was kind of like my first exposure to mindset. Like I never really believed in it, and I still didn't believe in it while I was doing the door to door sales. But when I look back on things, there was days I didn't want to be doing it,
Yeah.
and it directly affected my sales. So I did the door to door for, like I said, like about a year and a half, and then when I found out I was going to be a father, I transitioned to owning an insurance agency. So I started a insurance agency from scratch. And if you know anything about the insurance game, you don't get paid unless you're selling.
Right, right,
There's, you're getting paid commissions, and you're getting paid commissions up front. And so, you'll get paid on a 6 month commission. Um, and if that person cancels month two, you're getting chargebacks. So it was some rough months when I was a first, first I became a dad. And yeah, it was pretty difficult. And I was doing that. I'd been an insurance agency owner who was really fascinated with Facebook ads marketing. Like it had just came out, I think
mm,
around like
mm,
2005-ish, 2006, I think. And I was like, wow, this is pretty crazy. Like, you mean I can like put together this ad and serve it directly up to people? And the crazy thing back then, Randy, was they literally I don't Facebook, obviously you can't do this now, but they had people's expiration dates of when their policy was going to expire. So I could serve up an ad, attention, Portland, Oregon, auto renewal is coming up in the next month, like
right,
very, very specific, like creepy. And I was like, holy crap, you mean like I can get basically in front of these people that have a higher
right.
conversion rate because they're about ready to renew. And so I got really fascinated with the Facebook marketing. And then I took a course uh, from a guy that some people know. I won't mention his name. Um, and he kind of taught me how to crawl versus the guys that we're around now are teaching us how to run marathons and be
Right.
world
Yeah,
class sprinters.
yeah.
Um, but I started generating leads for basically first time home buyers, and I was using those as bait to go and land mortgage brokers and real estate agents because those were the people that I wanted relationships with for insurance.
Okay.
And instead of being the bagel guy or the cookie guy that brings in that stuff and gets these people fat in their offices, because it's just more noise, right?
Right,
Everybody's doing
right,
that same
right.
noise. I was the guy that was bringing in leads, and like that was changing the game. And it worked really, really well for a while. And the only requirement was, in order to get these leads, you need to send me all your insurance deals. Well, that worked really good, like I said, for a while. And then, if you know anything about mortgage people, they're probably some of the laziest people on the planet.
I did not know that.
They don't like to call. They don't like to work. Like, these are just leads. They're not hot leads. They're warm leads. Somebody says, "Yes, I have interest in
Right.
purchasing a
Yeah.
home." And so what I had to do is, I think it was about, oh gosh, it was in 2019. I would say November of 19, when I was having lunch with my wife, and I said, "Babe, like this just isn't working. Like, I'm having to spend all this money on Facebook, crossing my fingers that they send me insurance business." And I recently found out that there was a couple people that were basically not working the leads. And she's like, "Well, you don't have any other choice except to start charging these people." And I was like, "Well, if I do that, I'm probably going to lose some of them, as lose the relationship." She's like, "Well, it is what it is, right?" So I transitioned to a paid model. Even though I'm still owning an insurance agency, I transitioned to a paid model as a marketer. Some of them stayed on, some of them left, but I had this little side cash happening. And
So
so,
essentially, you were saying, "Hey, we'll do some lead generation for you, Mr. Mortgage Broker,
mhm,
and send them leads through your paid campaigns you're doing on Facebook."
correct. Yeah.
And then you were hoping as well as they would close that they would funnel
Yeah.
the insurance business to you.
Still had the relationship. At least I was having to help me out with my ad spend.
All right.
So as I did that, Randy, like I said, some people dropped off. We also started to transition to marketing in general for contractors, and I found the rank and rent model. So I was ranking websites in 2019, and I remember the course I took was 20 by 2020. So to basically get 20 sites up, 20 GMBs from before 2020, and I had chosen the deck and fence niche and landscaping, and I just went crazy, not knowing anything. I didn't know anything what I was doing.
Right.
Come to find out, it's like deck and fence, especially in the Pacific Northwest, is very seasonal. Landscaping is very seasonal. And so it was very difficult doing that. Pandemic happens, right? 2020 happens. I'm not going to the insurance office, and all these contractors are at home. And so I'm just hammering the phone, right? Just hammering. And I remember August of 2019, I hit six figures with the marketing company. And I thought, oh my God, six figures, right? Because I grew up in a very poor house and thought that six figures, like you'd made it, right? And I was like, this is definitely not the destination. This is just a stop on the way.
Right.
But it was very, very cool because I was able to be a person, of like just kind of like this side hustle. So I just continued, kept growing the general marketing company for contractors at that time, and I think we grew that to just shy of 40K a month. And Patrick from Rank Masters, our coach, he'd been preaching to me. He's like, man, you need to niche down. You need to niche down. You need to niche down. And I'm like, I don't know what to niche down in. I got all these guys that are contractors. There's nothing that really stands out. So I started looking at my book of business, and there was I had two spray foam insulation contractors. And Randy, spray foam is really, really expensive. It is very high ticket. It's not uncommon for guys to land $30,000-$40,000 jobs for commercial. When you start looking at residential, if it's a new build, in the 20K area, I would say on average across the United States, an average job, if you're talking about the shipping containers, and you average it in with like the big shops and barn dominiums and things like that, you're probably looking at somewhere around $10,000 for an average project.
Wow.
With that being said, as you know, we're looking at providing value. If I can provide X amount of leads to you a month, you can justify spending X amount of money because you're going to get X in return. And so we decided to niche down 100% into insulation, specifically spray foam. Now, a lot of my guys do bats and blow-in type of insulation, but that's really how things happened. And man, it's been really, really fun growing this company because now I can be a lot more playful. As you notice, we have Einstein as our logo with the spray foam gun there.
This guy up here.
And we show up at trade shows dressed up like Einstein. And I can tell you when we did that in Las Vegas, even though Las Vegas is pretty weird, right? There's a lot of weird stuff you see.
There's a lot of weird stuff.
We stood out in Vegas like you wouldn't believe. Like we went to everything, all the parties, the trade show. I mean, full Einstein wig, eyebrows, glasses, everything.
The whole thing.
And if you could imagine being in like a trade show with like 2,000 contractors, and they're just like staring at you. And I remember right after we were in Vegas, we had our biggest months. After that, we grew. We doubled our agency, and then the wheels fell off because we weren't prepared for that amount of growth. But it's been a really fun journey.
Yeah. Wow. So I love it. I tried to find because I know there's like videos and stuff. You're probably on Instagram or whatever. I didn't go look on Instagram, but I was trying to find some of the Einstein type videos because I know you've got content out there like that.
Yeah.
So you're driving the Einstein, kind of a play off of the Genius. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, when you're sitting there thinking about, well, what are we going to call this sister company?
yeah,
Because my main marketing company had nothing to do with insulation or spray foam,
yeah,
and I've always liked the idea of Einstein and the genius. There's so much you can do. Like we call our gals the geniusettes that are out at the shows with us. There's a lot of Einstein isms talking
yeah,
about the quotes that he supposedly made. So from a marketing company, I just feel like you need to be memorable. And Einstein and dressing up, it was a character that we could play. I mean, I never thought in 100 million years that I would be dressing up like
right,
Einstein.
right.
But we've been pushing out content with Einstein, and it did really really well, especially for interruption on Facebook.
Yeah,
We were interrupting the scroll really really good, but then I think my audience kind of got we'll just say numb to seeing the Einstein. It wasn't as catchy, so we've transitioned now to using Creatify.ai. And as you've seen,
yeah,
we're selling a little bit differently now on the Facebook with
yeah,
interrupting with pretty girls.
yeah. It's just a tried and true marketing method,
We
right?
could go back to what's sold for million years, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's crazy. So when you were saying, I am kind of curious. You had mentioned like you'd go into trade shows. Like, what kind of trade shows are you going to? Does
Yep.
spray foam guys have their own trade shows? Because I
They-
know, just in I didn't know anything about the industry, and now just in kind of hanging out with you in various kind of groups, I've heard you mention and talking about like some of the industry specific kinds of magazines or things in spray foam, and I'm like, I would have had no idea. I don't even know, do you have competition in this as a spray foam marketer? I mean, are there other big agencies that are trying to hunt these guys as well?
Yeah, so actually, there's a guy that we're kind of connected through. He's has known Patrick for years. He has more of a, we'll just say, a GMB style of rank and rip model that he's
Okay.
pushing for these guys, and he has been for years. But he's never built a really a brand
Hmm.
around things. So there's competition due to him being in the game longer,
Okay.
but I think we're probably a lot more recognized when it comes to things because of the brand that we've built.
Yeah.
As far as trade
So
specific trade,
critical. So critical.
yeah,
Building that brand is so critical. I want to hit on that a little bit as well, but go ahead about the trade show. Yeah.
yeah, trade shows. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. There's organizations that are specific to the installation business. So like one's called the SPFA. So spray foam, is it of America or something like that? And it's a trade. It's an
Vendors.
organization that puts on shows. They do training. They host at least one large event a year. So that's a lot of the bigger shows are hosted by them. There's also an organization that started off as a Facebook group uh, called Spray Foam Worldwide, which is a public, or sorry, a private Facebook group that has like 14,000 members. And what they do is they host their own events, as well as when the SPFA hosts their big conference, they always do like a huge party there. Um, and this last year, they gave away a two, just to kind of name off how big this thing is. It's kind of crazy. They gave away two spray foam rigs, which a spray foam rig is like a trailer
Yeah.
that's outfitted with like the generator and the pumps and like everything. Basically, you just drive it to the job site, unroll the hoses, and set your machine up and start
I mean,
spraying
that's
there.
got to be like a high value.
Yeah, $100,000 to start,
Yeah.
probably somewhere around there. And what they do is they partner up with these companies and the suppliers and manufacturers, and kind of get them to pitch in. There's also sponsorships that they do throughout the year, and it's pretty interesting. So they do their own individual party at the Mall of America once a year. And then there's a couple other ones that are out
Hmm.
there, organizations. But um, there's, speaking of trade magazines, there's a magazine called Spray Foam Magazine, and it goes out in print. I think every 2 months it goes out, and then there's a then they do like the digital stuff
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So
I
we
don't, I don't
recently
get that magazine. Yeah.
Yeah, we
Not
recently
another one.
just we're trying out something with them until the end of the year, which is us, doing a
Mm.
sponsorship with them, where they're pushing out stuff for us digitally, and then through print and such. So yeah, I mean it's really really interesting that there's things that are so specific. Now, there's probably, if I had to guess, around 5 to 6 thousand spray foam contractors. And if you can imagine, I mean, we don't need a whole lot of those
Yeah.
guys when we're charging 2 to 5K a month to
Yeah.
market for them.
Uh, I think you give a really great example about finding a very unique example or industry that you can just narrow your scope down. Um, and folks, audience, by the way, if you guys have questions you like to hit Spencer up with, hit him down in the chat area on whatever platform you're watching this on, and we'll try to get some insights from Spencer on these things. Um, Last week, I had somebody that you know as well, Ariel Cohen, was on the show last week. She gave a great example, again, of an agency niching down in their particular industry, roofing contractors, and um, and she also was doing some things that I wanted to ask you if you were kind of like going down this route as well, and maybe you have, which in regards to really becoming more than just a digital marketer, but really well, I'll say a trusted advisor for your spray foam clients. So beyond just getting them found in Google Maps, but really helping them become much more effective and efficient in operating their business.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I met Ariel for the first time myself when you met her at the Rank Masters event. What an amazing individual! I mean, she
Oh,
is
geez.
she is taken
Yeah.
something that, I mean, it makes me realize sometimes, Randy, how small I'm thinking. She talked about having these, flying these contractors in to her place there in Fort Lauderdale, and putting
Yeah.
on a full event on
Yeah.
training. And then what happens is they she builds that know, like, and trust, and the next thing you know, they're converting over to marketing clients. And
Right. Right.
that is a goal. I actually had our first podcast, actually, in live studio guest, a guy that's local here, and him and I really talked about how can we have him host these educational things about like spray foam, as us being sponsors and providing value, and then guys would fly in to do that. So that's something that we're toying around with, is really becoming like you said, the trusted advisor for these people. Because I think a lot of contractors in general, they're really good at their trade, but they're just not good at business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's half the reason why they are in that position of like needing leads. Like, oh man, I need leads, I need
Right.
leads, I need
Right.
business. It's because they don't have things set up correctly. And if they did have, we always talk about, if you could throw 100 leads at these guys, and they'd probably fumble all of them if they don't have the systems, you
Yeah,
know. Or I called them once, they didn't answer, so moved on. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
yeah. Well, and I think, and especially when you're generating leads, because you could send them all of these leads, but if they're not closing them, they're not going to recognize that their revenue is growing, right? They're not going to see
Mhm.
revenue growing. And so then they're going to say, well, you're not helping us all that much.
Yeah,
But I'm
that's
like, I'm
right.
sending you 100 leads a month, but how come you're not closing them?
Yeah,
And so it's a hard thing. I know. I think Ariel was kind of going down a path, and maybe she has started doing some of this already, which is doing essentially setting leads and following up on leads, or appointment setting for her contracting, roofing contractor clients, and as a means of trying to ensure that these guys are going to follow up on these leads and actually close the business and get them moving forward. And I think that in particular industries, I think that can be such a massive value add or an asset that you can provide for these guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's transitions, right? And it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really making sure that you have your foundational stuff set up, and really the processes. And so that's where we've been focusing a lot, is really on the processes and making sure our processes are set up. Because when we did have that big influx on clients, and we had, you know, uh, a big churn after about 90 to 120 days, it was really eye opening,
Mm,
and trying to figure out what, um, where the holes in the ship were.
mm,
Very, very difficult, right? So
yeah.
I remember I was on phone calls with several really, really high level people. I remember, Travis Weathers. I think you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
Travis.
yeah.
I think he's maybe been a guest on here.
He has. Yep, we've had Travis.
Travis, Patrick. Let's see who else. Adam McChesney.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. The yeah.
I mean, I was on phone calls with just high level marketers and saying, "Hey, like, what are you doing for retention? Like, what is like?" And then they would ask me, well, "What are you doing? Are you doing this? Are you doing that?" And really just figuring out things, because I think that's where a lot of agencies fail, is especially as you start to really grow to some big boy numbers. It's really, really difficult to land people and retain them for long periods of time.
Mhm,
And so that's been our focus. Once we're 100% sure that we're able to keep people happy for long periods of time, then we'll be start to expand, and look at uh, really taking that lead from A
mhm,
all the way to the finish line for that client for them. Um, right now we're just tracking uh, leads, contact forms, inbound calls, showing them like, hey, this is what we're doing for you.
mhm.
But not getting as specific as saying, look, Jane Doe, we we brought her from all the way to the beginning to where you guys now can see Jane Doe paid you guys money.
Right, right. Are
Yeah.
you doing, well, I actually, before I don't even want to go off on that yet. I want to ask you more in, because you had mentioned it before and about scaling a little bit, and you'd mentioned this, and the wheels fell off and you went out. I am curious, how did you, I will say, and you mentioned ship metaphor as well. I like ships. So, how did you kind of right size the ship, so to speak? One of the things I think you mentioned, you reached out, sought advice from other
Yeah.
successful, guys who are running, good digital marketing agencies. But were you, did you get kind of internal, and was it a, uh, what am I gonna, looking at how the agency was operating? Was it, some internal even introspection about, hey, how is Spencer kind of dealing with it? How did you begin to, like, all right, now we're fixed or fixing and moving in the right direction now?
Yeah. So to be transparent, we lost probably 50% of our clients when this happened, and most of them were people that had signed up within that right after the event.
Mm,
So, like I said, 90 to 120 days, they were leaving us. Um, and so, what I ended up doing was just kind of looking internal and saying, okay, what's going on here, and having conversations with other successful guys. Um, and what I found was, I think we were overselling, number one,
mm,
overselling and not setting proper expectations up front. So we changed kind of that sales presentation of like
right, right,
multiple times you're hitting on like, hey, this isn't just going to be a light switch where you flip on and then like the leads start pouring in. I wish that was the
right.
case. I mean, there is that if you want paid ads, but that's typically not where we go. We want to focus on organic unless you absolutely need ads right now or leads right now. So setting proper expectations up front. Something else that we added was we do a 6 month roadmap and a competitor analysis on our onboarding phone call.
Mm,
So the second that after we land that client, we are then doing a 6 month. We're booking that call. We're getting on there. We're going through, what to expect within the first 6 months. Month one, foundational setup. Month two, building on the foundation. Right. So these guys are getting this. We're using this contractor language so that they understand like where the road trip's taking them. I always
right,
joke around
right.
and say like, when you're used to open a map, a paper map on a road trip. I know you're old enough, Randy, to know this.
Yeah, I remember Thomas Brothers. Oh yeah, believe me.
Um, so I joke and I say, it's exactly like that, except, unfortunately, we can't predict the detours and the construction and things like
Right,
that. So
right.
this is just kind of a template. It's a layout of what we're going to be doing for you guys. And then we do an actual competitor analysis as well. So we research their competitors. We find out who's ranking, why they're ranking, what we're going to do to beat them. And it really instills a lot of um, like trust right in the
Mm.
beginning. So we've added that. Um, we've
And you
really,
do, and you kind of cover this on your onboarding call, your first kind
yes,
of call with
the
the,
first
yeah,
call. So
yeah.
typically what the process looks like is the
Man,
second.
hold on a second. I got to tell you, that is, and for guys who are running agencies, I have to tell you, that little nugget right there will probably save and retain 25% of your new onboarding clients, I would imagine, just because I think so many times people come to you and like, well, I'm going to do this digital marketing thing, and they have no idea exactly what to expect or even how the process flows.
Yeah,
And if you can begin to kind of lay it out, and essentially you're just allaying that uncertainty, right? Because sometimes they just write the check and they hope that it's the right thing. But man, I love that strategy. I love what you're doing with that. Just being able to spell it out for them, like this is what we're doing in month one, month two, month three, boom. And God,
yeah.
that's brilliant. That's great.
The other thing too is like, I mean, we always had this monthly SEO report calls that the client was expected to show up for. And we've really perfected that because there's a big disconnect, and we're not trying to like
Mm,
make these guys marketers, but yet they have to have a certain level of education to
right.
know like what we've done. Like I didn't realize when I started taking the report calls in between an account manager that we're training up. I was doing them, and there's this disconnect between the maps and organic websites. They were like, well, I don't understand. Like,
Mm,
so now we're very clear. Like, it's two different algorithms. Like, we're ranking you here, we're ranking you here, and making sure that they understand that. So not only do we have the images now on the SEO reports, we're very much touching on it. Like, okay, now this is this area, and we're really educating
mm,
them.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
Another thing too, I mean, like when we're right before the sales presentation, we're doing essentially an audit. Like I've already done the audit. I'll
mm.
pull it all up. I get them really like understanding. Like we're using lead snap heat maps. We're
Yep.
showing them like, hey, this is where you're ranking on the heat maps. This is what this means. This is why your phone's not ringing. This is the problems with your website. Like your H1 tag is like horrible. Like you have six of these things. I don't know who built your site, and so we start talking about structure and all these things that this guy
Right.
has no clue on what we're doing. but we're also attacking the emotion, and that person is really like feeling, oh my God, like, and then we go into the sales presentation. So that's really been helping kind of just in general build that trust. And we still do our swag packs after we land a client, which includes a QR code to their Google reviews, and a branded like clipboard box. I don't know if you ever seen those like hard metal clipboard
Oh
boxes.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Reviews. Uh, Branded hydro flasks. So because these guys are, if you think about installation contractors, they're in hot attics, sweating to death. They
Oh,
have to hydrate
perfect.
a lot.
Yeah, perfect idea. Do you?
And
I'm kind of curious. I love the idea about the kind of the swag, thank you, kind of thing. Do you outsource that? Do you have or do you guys kind of do, do you have your twin girls like, okay, we got clients and like this is your
being
job to go build these and send them out?
essentially, so they're every one of them is custom because we have to wait for the QR code that from we use Zazzle to print those.
Okay,
So there is a slight delay because we have to get access to the GBP and then order those from Zazzle. They actually mail them to my house,
okay,
and then I also do a customized letter as a welcome. And so I'm doing all that at my house right now. Um, yes, it could be somebody else, but all my team's out of the United States.
right.
So um, I,
Well, I just know there are companies
yeah,
that do that, right? That you
and
can
I don't
outsource
know, I
and
don't
like,
know
oh
who
yeah,
would
send
do
this in.
something like this because we
Yeah,
literally are taking this high quality vinyl and branding like the clipboard box and the hydro flask.
nice,
So it's like a
nice.
very
Yeah,
custom process.
yeah.
Yeah, granted, I want to get away from that, but it does allow me to really put that personal touch
Yeah.
with my clients. So
Well, I think it's great. There was so as Terry Samuels was on here, boom. I think he was on, said hello, and then he had to jump off.
yeah.
Um, but at SEO Spring Training a couple of weeks ago, and Patrick was there as well, Patrick Shannon,
Hmm.
um, and Taylor Hicks. I know you know Taylor as well.
Yeah.
Um, there was a great speaker, Brad, and I can't remember his last name.
Ferris.
Sorry, Brad.
Brad
Um,
Ferris.
Brad Ferris, yes,
Yep.
and was speaking about this subject on retention and about taking care of your clients and the recognition of you lose clients because they feel like communication is poor with you and as well that their agency, or meaning us, would be has either they feel like we've lost interest or has have lost initiative in the relationship, and so it's I think his approach was yes, results are important, but they almost become a back seat to the communication and the relationship that you have with the client and as being the drivers of retention. And so doing things like where you're talking about the swag bag, onboarding swag bag, he has a whole process of everything that they kind of do throughout the year of doing stuff like that as continual connects with the client. If they're having a birthday, they really have like they've got somebody who really tries to go find out what is this person like. And he told this great story. One of their clients loves balloons, and so they found some vendor that sends a box that looks like a birthday box, so it's like jammed with balloons. And so as soon as they open it up, balloons are everywhere. I'm like, wow, that is, but this idea though of making those kinds of connections reality with your clients plays such an important part in a retention aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I do believe we still need to bring results, especially at
Oh,
the
I
ticket,
do too. Yeah.
at the ticket price that we're at. We're not flying under
Yeah,
the radar. We're not a gym
yeah,
membership. At $10-15 a month,
right,
and
right.
several $1,000s. You notice that as a business owner, and so the good thing about our niche is, if I'm bringing you one or two solid leads at least per month and you're closing them, then you're probably pretty happy and you can see a positive ROI. The
Yeah.
hard thing about this sometimes is, Randy, what I've noticed is, we talked about how these guys typically aren't the best business owners, is that there's times that they're not even just answering their phone.
Right.
So like we're doing call tracking. We're looking at the phone calls. We're seeing, okay, like, man, you've answered 10% of the phone calls. Like, that's a problem. What's going on? And
Yeah.
so what we have kind of transitioned to is, and it took me, this was a big failure on my part when we did go through the churn. Um, I had this client, and we had been sending him over the course of, I think it was like 90 to 120 days. There was like 250 phone calls in the Fresno market. And they're lead gens that we were forwarding to him while we're working on building their own brand, because they're a new startup. So I felt like, we could hit the ground running. We have these leads coming in, and they end up canceling with us because they're frustrated. They're like, this isn't working. And I was like, oh, what the heck's going on? And anytime anyone leaves, Randy, one of the things that we're doing now is, like, if they're willing, kind of an exit survey.
Mm.
So we can find out where we can improve, because
Right.
to me, it's really like, I want to grow consistently. If we're the same company that we are, in the next 10 years, then we're doing something wrong.
Right.
And so they were very upset. So I went into Lead Snap, where we're tracking on the phone calls, and started looking, and they're answered literally probably 10% of the calls out of those 250. And I'm
Mm.
like, what's
Yeah.
going on
Yeah.
here? And I started thinking about it, and this is a big failure. And I want people to think about this with their niche, is you got to think about what this contractor, like, what his day-to-day looks like. So he's not a tile guy where he has just a trowel in his hand and he's like tiling and the phone rings. These guys are suited up in PPF, masks, gloves, suits, right? They probably have earbuds in that they're listening to music while they're spraying this insulation. It's very toxic. And for me to think that a person is going to, when their phone rings, if they're a solopreneur or they don't have a dedicated phone answering person, they're going to like take off this thing and like answer the
Right.
phone,
Right.
take off the
Right.
glove. I failed this client because I didn't think about this. So now the question when we're having a sales conversation is, hey, do you have somebody dedicated to answering your phones on the discovery call?
Right.
They say, no, that's me. And I'm like, are you still spraying? Yes, I'm still spraying. Then on that proposal, we're adding in a call answering service for them.
Well, I was just going to go hit that because
Yeah.
years ago, in the business that I had, in an educational business, um, I realized that I needed my own call center. And so I just built out my own call center to be able to deal with this stuff. And another digital marketer, he was also at SEO Spring Training, James Dooley, crazy guy from the UK. Love this guy. Incredible entrepreneurial. He was doing essentially similar to what you're doing lead gen, driving business and leads to a very high end niche, and was realizing these guys were not kind of exactly what we're talking about, really kind of handling or dealing with these leads that were coming in. And they were such a high ticket. He as well, like, we're just creating my own call center and building this out to ensure that these leads can be, dealt with appropriately, and sent off to these clients then appropriately. So yeah, I loved it. I love that you're mentioning that. You're like, hey, we're going to hook you up with a call answering service and like help drive this.
Yeah, and the thing is like, it really, it helps because it also gives us a way to kind of say, hey, we did that. Like,
Right, right,
we were the ones that brought this to you, and that you wouldn't have this lead if it wasn't for us. Another thing that we have been doing as well to help with that retention is, like, whenever a lead comes in through their contact form, a phone call comes in, they're getting a text saying,
mm,
hey, sent this to you.
mm,
This is from us. Because there's a lot of noise. And I feel
right,
like they don't really attribute some of this stuff to us. It's just like more noise. Don't know where
Yeah,
the noise came from.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's helping with things,
Yeah.
Randy.
Yeah, I think it's great steps to just to say, "Hey, I'm here as your partner and we're working together," right? And so let me show you what we're doing as well to help support you. Um, I want to change gears here a little bit because you've mentioned it early on in the conversation here, which was mindset.
Mhm.
And you talked a little bit about, the mindset when you were out selling kind of door to door. And I loved also you threw out a little phrase. I love this was about that you were thinking too small. Talk to me a little now. I will give a little background on this as well. So, folks, Spencer and I are part of Rank Masters together, and if you're curious on Rank Masters, go just do a Google search, and you'll go find info on Rank Masters. Patrick Shannon was on the show 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact. And if you're interested, go look at that show as well. We talk a little bit about Rank Master. Um, we do a book club in Rank Master. I've not been so great about the book club, but I do know, in some of the books we talk about mindset, and I do know, from various, some in some of the sessions I've set in, mindset and kind of your approach to business really is instrumental, I think, to your overall success and drive. Tell me about mindset. What does that mean to you, and how are you like getting a hold of it? I guess.
Yeah. So, uh, 2020, COVID hits, and my wife was a very successful salesperson for a beverage company. She'd go to the grocery stores. She represented 5 brands.
Mm,
She'd sell in, beverages to the store managers, and we didn't know anything really about COVID. We didn't know like what we were supposed to be doing.
right.
She just knew it was bad stuff, but she still had a job to do, and she uh, ended up getting sick with COVID. Like what they think happened is she was exposed multiple times to kind of different strains of the virus, and she ended up becoming 80% bedridden for the first year.
Wow.
She is known as what they call a COVID long hauler, so she has long term effects from COVID.
Wow.
She's permanently disabled now from COVID. Only has 60% of her lung capacity, and the
I had
virus
no idea. No. Wow.
the
Okay.
virus really wreaked havoc, and it was an extremely stressful time in my life. I remember it was June of 2020. It'd been a couple months of me experiencing like my wife in bed, me having to take
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
all the cleaning and cooking and running multiple businesses, and it was extremely stressful. And I was talking with my my therapist, and I said, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm just drowning in stress. He's like, well, what are you doing for yourself? I'm like, I don't have any time for myself. What are you talking about doing for myself? Like,
I'm
uh,
doing. I'm carrying everything. I don't know. Yeah.
so he suggested to spend some time in the woods in a hammock. Um, so I started doing that, and it really was. I know it sounds crazy, but it's something that really, really helped me, and I still do that
Okay.
today. And about the same time, I think it was August of 19, I started the 75 Hard program, if you've heard about that, and really just kind of started to believe in this mindset thing. I joke and I say that I grew up in a poor financial household as well as a poor mindset household. I grew up around people that told me like you can be anything you want to be, yet they're still working in the same dead end job that they've had their whole life.
Mm,
And I always thought mindset was bullshit. I was like, it's just stuff that people say. It sounds good, but it doesn't actually work. So I don't know. For some reason, Randy, at this period of time in my life, I didn't have anything to lose except to start working on myself. Like my
mm,
wife's sick, I'm stressed. Like
yeah.
the
Yeah.
heck, like just throw this hail mary. So I started really like working on myself, working on mindset, like just like trusting in it that it's actually a real thing. And a couple years later, I'm I'm seeing this gal that I would say is like an emotional intelligence coach. And I had seen a Tesla X, and I was like, wow, these things are really cool. It's $100,000 car. Wow, I hope someday I could afford something like this. And I go to my first appointment with this gal, and uh, I think I saw her getting out of the car or something before my appointment. I said, "Wow, you guys have a Tesla?" She goes, "Yeah, actually, we have two. My husband has a Type S." I was like, "Wow, that's really cool. Like, that's something I want to own someday." And she goes, so after our session, she goes, "Hey, have you ever sat in one?" I'm like, no. She goes, "Let's go." So we went out. I'm sitting in there. She goes, "You ever? I take it since you've never sat in one, you've never rode in one." I'm like, no. She goes, "Let's go for a drive." So we go for a drive. Then we get to this grocery store parking lot. She pulls in. She goes, "You want to drive it?" And I'm going, "Oh my God, like you're going to trust me to drive your very expensive asset here, right? Investment." And she goes, "Yeah, not a problem." This thing was like, I felt like it's so much tech versus a gas car.
Yeah.
Uh, but yet it isn't. It's like driving an RC car if you ever drove a little RC car. So I
Okay.
drive this thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, right? And I start really thinking about things. We get back to her office and she says, "Hold on, let me take a picture." So she takes a picture of me. She goes, "Now when you get home, I want you to print this out and stick it next to your computer.
Mm.
So you look at it every day and you have that feeling, right?" Because
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of what we want to accomplish, if we can attach it to our emotion, you can get there a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And so, literally 11 months later, I bought my Tesla. And that was like, holy crap, this stuff actually works. Like I never believed in it, Randy. Never
Wow.
believed. And that's when everything started. And like for me, granted, I'm not perfect at this. There's times where that negative voice starts creeping in, but from the research that I have done, because I really like went in this pretty deep, like I'm in the deep end now. Um, all of us, no matter how successful you are, it's just a volume. It's a
Yeah.
volume difference with that negative and that positive voice. So if you can keep the positive voice cranked, because even the most successful million billionaires, they still have that negative voice that's like, you can't do this,
Yeah.
like you don't
Yeah.
deserve this, all this other stuff that our brain tells us. And so really I think it's, for me it's about keeping myself surrounded by amazing people that are constantly pushing
Mhm.
me, like wanting me to grow, constantly telling me, "Hey dude, you're thinking too small, man. Like you can be really crushing some big numbers."
Mm.
um, and also, being able to enjoy some of the finer things in life. That's what motivates me, that and the freedom. My
Yeah.
wife and I love to travel, and so to continue to keep pushing the mindset boundaries, typically when that's happening, the bank account's filling up as well.
Hmm. I love that. So your mindset journey kind of started COVID. So you've been doing it, 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
kind of rolling. And what would you? So if somebody was thinking like, how do I want to be there. I want to drive the Tesla. I want to travel the world. I want to. What would be your advice? Like, here's some first steps.
Um, I think firstly, you have to actually believe that it's a real thing. Secondly, and make sure you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people,
Mm.
because people that don't believe in that stuff, people that think it's BS, if you're hanging out with them, that can be your own family. Because I came from a very negative
Yeah.
background, and when I started to actually make money, I remember my mom, uh, she was having some mental health issues, and she said, "There's more to life than just money, Spence." And I was like, "No, I understand that. But that's also kind of what a poor person would say." You know what I mean? Like that's a poor quote.
Hmm.
So making sure that you're surrounding yourself with very positive people that believe in mindset and manifestation, I think is huge. Thirdly, I'd say making sure that you're stuffing your head in books that talk about this,
Yeah.
because it solidifies that it's actually real. I mean, you can go
You got a
back.
couple out of your back pocket you would hand to people. I mean,
Think and Grow Rich. I mean,
right.
that's an old book from the 30s, and it's crazy how much of that still applies to today. Like some of these high achievers in the 1930s and 40s, they knew about this stuff, and it was a
Mm,
very much a secret. Now it's not so much a secret. I like to follow people on the socials too that are really talking about stuff like this and helping you overcome mindset issues and challenges and failures, because I think I don't think we talk about our failures as much as our success.
mm,
And to me, like, the failures is what makes us. That's what you learn from. People don't learn from success.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So Think and Grow Rich has been great. The book I think you're part of with Naval, the gosh, I can't remember his last name. The Almanac of Naval,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, I know. Yeah.
an amazing book. I mean, a lot of these books out there, there's a lot of mindset that's tied to it. And then even if you asked your million and billionaires, they would probably tell you it's about mindset. And it's not about you being the smartest person, because trust me, there's a lot smarter people out there. I've just been able to figure out how to kind of hack my way through things, and put right people in places, as well as just outwork everyone.
Yeah.
That's kind of like been my thing, my go-to for years, is just, Randy, you may be working 40 hours a week, but I'll work 60 or 70. So I'm,
Yeah,
I'm, I'm getting a week and a half for every week that you get in. And
yeah.
so that's been beneficial as well. But I would just say those things, making sure you're taking care of your own mental health, whatever that looks like. If that's
Mm, mm,
making sure you're getting a morning walk in when your cortisol level is super high,
mhm.
getting some time, if it is laying in a hammock in the forest, like what I
Yeah,
do, like
love it.
whatever it is, because at the end of all this, you have to be a fine-tuned machine in order to be performing in your personal and business life.
Hmm. Love it. Great advice. I will tell you one of the things you mentioned about, even just kind of changing some habits, even one of the things that I walked away with from our event, the Rank Masters event in February, was I started journaling again.
Yeah.
And I had been on and off kind of journaling, but um, and kind of talking with Patrick. Patrick and I went and did a walk, morning walk. I'm like, hey, and I started journaling, and I've been doing it ever since. And it has been such a great journey doing that, both just in like kind of creating a different voice, I guess, internally. And oddly, my wife and I, we were just kind of dealing with something last week, and she was like, "Yeah, I can see, you're thinking about things a little bit differently." And I'm like, I think because I've been dealing with some of this stuff, in my journaling, and so it's been good. So I think, yeah. Kind of the internal voices that you hear and that you constantly are dealing with. It's the positive and the negative, and you've got to listen to both, but amplify, as you say, turn up the volume on the positive one. I think,
Yeah, and even also giving names to both those
yeah,
voices.
yeah,
Like, I know it sounds like absolutely cuckoo, like you have multiple personalities, but like, I know people that give that negative guy a voice, and then you're like, you can tell them, like,
yeah,
shut up, Jim, or
yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah,
Like,
get out of here. Wow. Well, listen, man, I thank you so much for being on the show. It's like great to hear your story and great to hear what's going on. And my best to you and your family. And I look forward to seeing you at the next Rank Masters event, whenever that will be. And
for sure.
we'll connect. I love to go hang out in the hammock with you. Well, not in the same hammock, but out
Yeah.
in the woods, maybe is what I should say.
Well,
Um,
I
I
have an
love
extra.
I love being out in the woods. for a long time I was a scoutmaster, and my son is a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout, and so we have done a lot of camping. We're doing a camping trip in July. Yeah, we love getting out and doing that stuff. So
Yeah, it's so healing.
yeah,
Um, and I think the biggest thing of it that's scary for people, especially people that have a lot of baggage, is the scariest place is to be by yourself
yeah,
and in your own thoughts.
yeah,
And honestly, for me, it just allows you to go out and brain dump. Like there's so many times my assistant's getting messages while I'm out there, even though I'm like in a meditative, like relaxation
yeah,
mode, and then bam, like these like amazing thoughts are coming because I allow myself the space
yeah,
for that to happen. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome anytime, Randy. If you ever get out here to Washington State, I have an extra hammock. I'll throw it up for you. We're close to an eyesight away from me. We can,
Nice.
you can meditate and enjoy yourself laying out and looking up at some trees.
Nice. I love it. I love it. All right. So, folks, you can hit Spencer over there at sprayfoamgeniusmarketing.com. There's a site, there's the URL. Go hit him up. Talk about spray foam, talk about niche marketing, and or even just talk about mindset is all good, I think, with Spencer. And next week, I'm taking next week off, actually, so we will not have a show next week. But our next show, June 3rd, I've got Dixon Jones. I've been trying to corral this guy for many months to get him on the show. And if you, folks, if you know Dixon Jones, Dixon is one of the guys behind, the original guys behind Majestic. And for the last several years, he's had his own linking and content development software called InLinks. And now he's got some other stuff that I'm sure we're going to be able to talk to him about in regards to AI and what AI knows about you and your brand. So, should be a good show. So that's coming up on June 3rd. And like, subscribe, follow. I would appreciate that. And again, thank you, Spencer. So great to see you, man.
Thanks, Randy. It's been
All
fun.
right.